Hey guys, I'm Jordan and you're watching Fixbook. After watching this video, your car problems stand about as much a chance as this laptop does against my hot lead. Now, make sure you stay tuned so you can see what happened to the laptop at the end of this video. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below. Hey guys, so today we're going to be changing the axles on a Subaru Legacy Outback. And the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and loosen up your lug nuts there. They're 19 millimeters, and the axle nuts as well, because we're going to be lifting up the car and you want them loosened before you get them up in the air on your jack stands. And it's going to be a 32 millimeter axle nut. So go ahead and loosen those up and then we'll see you when we got the car lifted up. Okay guys, so once you get your wheel off, we're going to need to get this axle nut off, and you may notice that it may be bent down in over this piece right here, and that's from where the last time somebody took a flathead screwdriver and banged that in and bent it in so it wouldn't come off. Now what you can do is you can take a flathead screwdriver and kind of get up under there and unbend it, and then go ahead and just continue to take it off there. And you should have done that when you're breaking it loose, and by now you should be able to just unscrew it off there. So if for some reason you can't get under there with a flathead screwdriver and get it out, just go ahead and take your 32 millimeter nut and your breaker bar and just spin it off. It will bend that big old axle nut back to straight so you can take it off all the way, and then we'll be sitting and looking like this. The next thing we need to do, guys, is remove both of these nuts. And there's two bolts and they're going to come out, and then your wheel hub assembly or knuckle is just going to kind of swing out, and then we'll remove the axle, and then we'll go in there and pop the pin out and take the axle out that way. But the important thing to remember here is that this top one right here is part of the alignment. So what you've got is you've actually got a bolt here with the egg looking thing on it on the inside. So when you turn it, what that does is brings your wheel hub either this way or that way, or up or down or something like that. So there's little notches on the nut, and what I would do is I would take a flathead screwdriver, and there'll be a line over here which I'll show you in just a second, and go ahead and take a hammer and a flathead screwdriver and bang on the spot where the bolt on this side is lined up with the line. So that way when you go to put it back on and tighten everything up, you just need to make sure that nick you made is lined up with the line so you don't mess up your alignment. Okay guys, and here's a closer look at that bolt I was talking about. And as you can see, there's little lines here, and hopefully you should be able to see right there where my finger is on the actual piece there, there's a line, a fixed line. So when you spin your bolt, you know, you'll be able to remember your location by the line sitting up here. And so you'll want to bang your little notch right in there so that you'll be able to line that little nick back up with the line you see right over there. And once again, this is to make sure your alignment stays where it was. We want to make sure your alignment isn't messed up so you're not eating up tires and stuff like that. So once you've made your little nick right by that line, then we will go ahead and take both the bolts out, swing the knuckle down, and we'll remove that axle. Alright guys, so what I'm doing right here is I'm just taking this flathead screwdriver and I'll just stick it right over here and make sure it's lined up, and then on the other end I'll take my 32-ounce hammer and just kind of bang a notch right there. And make sure you just do it once, really, because if you try and hit it more than once, then you're going to make more than one nick. So just make sure you get one good nick right there so it's lined up, so once again you can put that bolt back in and realign your car correctly. Okay guys, so once you get those bolts out, and as you can see I got one put in here, it's going in the opposite way it came out. I just got moving along there and forgot I need to actually show what's going on here. So once you get both the bolts out, I'm going to try and do this one hand so you can see. Well, when I pull that out, this knuckle is going to come forward, and you can see right here the axle, the spline is sticking out. What you're going to want to do is take some PB Blaster or WD-40 and spray it in there. And also, while you got both your wheels off, go ahead and spray those two bolts as well, and then go to the other side and spray the end of the axle there, and then the bolts on that side as well, and it'll help everything come out and it'll help the job go smoother. So, and then what you can do if this is kind of stuck in there is take your 32-ounce hammer and just kind of beat on it there. Make sure not to hit your wheel studs or you'll have problems when you go to put the lug nuts back on. So now I'm gonna take this out. Let's see. If you could just kind of hold it forward there. There we go. And so now you're just gonna watch it. It'll come forward and it'll come off this piece right here. So now you can see that piece is dangling and this has come all the way forward. And now, let's see if I can get it here. Oh, we got shadows in the way. So now your axle should be able to come out there. Can you hold the camera here? Let's see. Let me get a good angle on it there. There, if you could just hold it right there. Alright. So I'm just gonna pull the axle out like that. And then I've got to try and work around this brake hose and all this. And eventually I will get the spline around the brake hose. But the beautiful thing is you only have to get those 2 nuts out. And then we're going to work around this. And once I get this work around, I'll show you the spline going around the brake hose as well. Okay guys, and instead of bringing the spline up here and around, I'm actually going to go downward in a downward position. And you kind of bend it and then stick the nose down, and then as you can see, I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, but I've got a spline out and around, and then we'll just have to go in there and pull the pin out from the inner one, and then we'll pull the axle right out. Okay guys, so here's 2 axles right here. The one on the left is the one we took out on the other side, and the one on the right is the new one. And our next obstacle is, I don't know if you can see it too well, but we got 2 holes right here. You should be able to see it well on this one. Got a hole right there and also on the other one. So our first thing we're gonna have to do is punch out the pin on inside there underneath the car. We're gonna punch it out, and then when you go to line it back up, there's a spline coming out of the transmission, and you'll find the hole on the spline coming out of the transmission. And then we'll also take a look inside of the axle, and you'll kind of be able to see the spline pattern between the spline coming out of the transmission and the female splines in here. And the spline pattern may be different for each 2 holes, but they will line up. One hole will line up with the spline coming out of the transmission, and you'll be able to tell what I'm talking about when you look at the patterns of the splines, the male and the female. So just make sure when you go to put your new one back on that the spline pattern matches up for the particular hole you're going to be trying to get started here. So just take note and notice that and observe that and make sure you get that lined up. So when we go to put it back on, you're going to take that punch and you're going to get it started there with the hammer, and you're going to go ahead until it's flush and it's down sitting like that, and that's what's going to hold your axle in. Okay guys, and I'm going to kind of give you a little demonstration here as well, because it's going to be really hard for me to get under the car and work in those tight quarters and show you what I'm doing. So right now I got a punch here that is just about the right size for this pin right here. It's a little bit smaller, so when I'm hitting down in there, it's going to go inside the axle there, and it's going to punch it all the way through. And if you don't have a punch like this, you may be able to use a Phillips head screwdriver or something like this. This one's actually too wide, but I'm sure you can find one that's a little bit skinnier, and you'll do the same thing. You'll hit on there and it should work just about the same. When you go back to hit it in, you're gonna take your hammer and go ahead and tap it in there and start it in there. Make sure you got it lined up, and then it won't be too hard, guys. It will not be too hard for the pin to actually go all the way in. So if you're sitting there for like 20 minutes trying to make it go in, you might want to pull it back off and then restart it on the splines again and see if it's lined up then, because it's not gonna take you 10 minutes to knock it in. It'll go in a little bit and then it'll go right through. So just also make a note of that when you go to put it back in. Okay guys, so I'm about to go ahead and start hitting on my pin there, and I'll try and give you a shot of that too, but the important thing you need to know is to get a good angle on your pin, you may have to twist your axle, and you're going to be able to twist your axle. So back on the inner part of your axle there, you'll feel with your finger and find the pin, and The best position is going to be coming up under the car. You'll take your punch and your hammer and you'll be swinging underneath, and the pin will pop out on the direct opposite side, and it'll pop out. So that's how you're going to want to do it. And remember, just you can spin this axle to get a better angle on it. Okay guys, now I'm trying to show you that we're going under the hood here, and the reason I'm standing back is so I can show you exactly where I'm going. Now, here we are. There is the axle, and I've located this from under the hood, and there is that little hole is where I need to put my punch. So I'm gonna line it up like that, and I'll just set it like that, and I'll start hammering so I can get it all the way out. And then once your pin is all the way out, that axle right there just slides out, and then you just slide in your new one. Now, important note for the other axle is, as I described there earlier, I was saying that you'd have to go from the ground up when you would bang on the pin there. That's what you're gonna have to do. I don't believe you can access it from underneath your hood, but the driver's side pin for the inner axle, you will be able to punch the pin out from up top. But I repeat, I'm so sorry guys, the passenger side you will be able to access from under the hood. The driver's side will be from below the car. You'll be hitting from the ground up with your hammer. Again, the passenger side, you're going to be able to access where I showed you over there. Then you'll be able to swing down from the hood. So just remember those two locations, because that's where you're gonna have to swing from when you're taking the pin out on either side with the axle. Here's what we got after the pistol rounds went through it. I got 6 out of 8, not too bad. So we got one right there, one right there, one right there, one right there, one right there. It looks like something might have hit. I don't know if that was a bullet or not.